It's December 31st. It's the last day of 2022 and the last day to get your IndyCar fix officially on iRacing. I've been stewing on this for a little over a week now. If you follow my social media accounts, and you probably don't, I wouldn't blame you. But if you have, you'll have seen a very vocal Nifty regarding the iRacing and IndyCar contract situation. Have I changed any part of my mind over the last week? Is this as bad as it looked? Is there any room for glass half full thinking here? Let's get to it after the intro.
Once I hit you with that backspace, you ain't coming back. No control on the reach and give me space. Like time. Hit you with that backspace, you ain't coming back.
No, there isn't. No redeeming qualities. But that doesn't mean there isn't some nuance to talk about that I think has been missed by most folks talking about it. So let's talk about that. To catch you up though, on Wednesday, December 21st, Greg West of iRacing posted to the community that, to summarize, IndyCar and iRacing had not reached an agreement for a new license for the IndyCar brand on the platform. The current license is expiring on the new year, meaning that iRacing cannot use IndyCar's name or brand. West continued further to say that the agreement IndyCar has with, quote, another developer, is exclusive. But, he added, iRacing and IndyCar were working to finalize a new license. In the meantime, iRacing rescheduled all of their official races to make sure to avoid official IndyCar tracks from featuring on their schedule. To translate that to other video game parlance, that's like iRacing saying no ranked matches will involve the IndyCar at IndyCar tracks. iRacing also sent out a notice to iRacing broadcasters telling them to refrain from broadcasting IndyCars in the future. IndyCar released a statement shortly after, stating that IndyCars would remain on iRacing at current tracks, including the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that the series wanted to make sure fans could experience the cars across multiple mediums. IndyCar then expressed a multitude of platitudes about their current contract with that other developer that Greg West alluded to, Motorsports Games. Motorsports Games has already become fairly infamous in the gaming community. Putting aside the previous ventures of the owners, the company is in dire straits. Its stock price has plummeted. The entire board of directors has resigned. They released NASCAR Ignition 21, which could charitably be called unfinished on release day. They've locked out multiple motorsports categories from other video game markets. They're a mess of a situation. Naturally, a lot of folks, and I mean a lot, were upset about the way this unfolded. The backlash against IndyCar for signing the deal with Motorsports Games once it was realized that this affected iRacing was immediate. IndyCar's poor Twitter folks haven't had a day's relief from angry users demanding iRacing's contract be re-upped. And hey, in the interests of full disclosure, I'm one of those angry Twitter accounts. Very angry. But like I said, there is some nuance. The first being, IndyCar signed this contract back in 2021. This wasn't signed on Wednesday. That was just when Greg West from iRacing put out a statement. IndyCar fans have known a game was being developed by Motorsports Games. This isn't news. What wasn't as well known was how strict the exclusivity was on the contract. To lock out iRacing and video game broadcasters from IndyCar content seemed Orwellian. But one of the peculiarities here is IndyCar's statement, that IndyCar content would still be able to be featured on iRacing. And what about Greg West saying that they were still negotiating for a new license? If IndyCar had an airtight contract with Motorsports Games providing that much exclusivity, wouldn't that mean there'd be no negotiation left to do? That's when I came across a Redditor user named CougarIndy25, or more accurately, they came across me, and Reddit smacked me around a bit because they had read the SEC filing. They had the contract itself, and I'll provide the link in the description that they sent. What Cougar found in the SEC filing, which wasn't even very deep in the text, was this stipulation. The contract does say that IndyCar is giving Motorsports Games license to develop a game, but it specifies this is non-exclusive. Now there's more to it than that, and Nifty is not a lawyer. Repeating, Nifty is not a lawyer. So I'm not providing any sort of legally withstanding reading of this contract or whatever. But it does seem to me that the contract very clearly says non-exclusive. What is exclusive are particular terms, such as the official video game of IndyCar, and the such. Those are spelled out. iRacing cannot use those. But iRacing, the game, setting up ranked races on IndyCar tracks, probably a gray area. Gamers streaming on Twitch, point-of-view streaming shouldn't be affected by this decision as long as it isn't branded as officially licensed IndyCar content. Broadcast-style events hosted by private leagues, though, As long as they don't brand it the official Indy 500 stream of IndyCar or something like that, that should be fine from what I see in the contract, which means maybe, but again, Nifty is not a lawyer, but maybe this is something iRacing is pushing out there, not IndyCar. Perhaps out of abundance of caution for their users, or perhaps to try and leverage outrage to get a better deal out of IndyCar in the future negotiations that West alluded to. Call that maybe a hunch, I guess. But does that mean I think Greg West and iRacing are in the wrong and being super toxic towards their users and IndyCar? No, not at all. See, part of being in a business means working with partners. I can't believe I'm having to say this about a Roger Penske branded thing. But yes, you have to work with your partners. You have to keep your partners happy. You have to keep your business relationships rolling. They call it synergy, I think. But yanking around partners, working with their competitors exclusively, making your partners feel unprioritized or out of the loop, unaware of what's going on, that's going to have consequences. And that's why I feel, even if it's iRacing putting these no broadcasting rules on their users, that this is ultimately IndyCar's responsibility to fix, because it's IndyCar's failure. They took a true partner for over a decade and treated them as such a low priority. This contract has been signed for almost 2 years now, yet Greg West is still talking about negotiating. This should have been finished before it got to the last week of business 2022. Given iRacing was a previous partner, IndyCar should have had some level of communication with their current partner iRacing about the contract negotiations with Motorsports Games when that was happening. I'm not saying I support iRacing making things harder on their users, if that's what's going on, which I have no evidence of that. Maybe they're just being super cautious. But if that is what's going on, it's something they're well within their rights to do, and something resulting from their very legitimate displeasure with IndyCar and how IndyCar has handled things. And for IndyCar itself. For IndyCar itself, this is just another loss, another L on the scoreboard in a long string of L's this offseason. I ran a 47-race IndyCar season in 2022. With the exception of Road Atlanta, all of these races are from IndyCar's past, most of them recent past. So what's IndyCar's real-life schedule currently? If I'm able to draw 47 races from the recent past, how many races are on the real-life IndyCar schedule? 17, across 14 locations. When announcing the 2023 IndyCar schedule, IndyCar basically carbon copied the 2022 schedule, which not only is, in my opinion, unacceptably short for a sports series in the Twitter age of instant communication and the 24-hour news cycle, but it didn't fix any of the problems of the 2022 season. Iowans roasting under an oppressive summer sun? That's still in there. St. Louisans in the August afternoon at Gateway? Still there. Running 3 races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Absolutely still happening. How about a small number of ovals? No international dates apart from Toronto. Intentionally removing the series from the public eye by sequestering in Indiana for a whole month before the lead up to their biggest event? Still happening. No representation northeast of Ohio or Detroit in the United States? Still happening. This schedule is not great. Regarding Iowa in particular, what didn't help that announcement that it was going to be in the hot summer sun again was a 300% price hike on tickets. That certainly does not go well with dehydration, sunburn, and heat stroke. IndyCar also took an L in delaying or canceling a new chassis and new engines, which they're what feels like 100 years late to being cutting edge with the hybrid technology that they announced. Like, nobody is excited about hybrids anymore. That's old news. But that failed to attract any new engine makers to the series, which is a tough pill to swallow. The series desperately needs a third engine manufacturer. And now that they've canceled the new engines, Honda, who had dumped a bunch of research and development cash into that engine formula, seems, call it a rumor, that they're miffed about having dumped millions of dollars for nothing. Also worth mentioning is that IndyCar is, somewhat objectively, a less popular entity than iRacing itself. IndyCar's last TV broadcast had just over 500,000 viewers, while iRacing on Twitch has over 735,000 followers. When you look at those TV ratings for IndyCar, a concerning percentage of the viewership is in the over 55 demographic. Not that there's anything wrong with being over 55. I'm not being ageist here. You 55-year-old and above folks are just great. But it's not what networks or advertisers usually bite on when they're looking to invest in a series. So it makes it harder for the IndyCar series to grow. And moreover, it gives some concerns about the fan base's long-term health, and I don't mean personal health, but I mean like the health of the fan base itself. If it's not getting the exposure, and year after year, the fan base is just getting older, it's a compounding problem where every year this is only going to get worse as far as the series trying to attract new people in, or just maintain the same numbers that they currently have. Add to all of this uncomfortable yes man culture surrounding the IndyCar series' leadership, and the attacks media members have been receiving from that leadership on criticizing that leadership. And it's getting tougher and tougher to keep a bright, happy outlook regarding the series. And this is where my head was after the iRacing announcement. A series that is run by out-of-touch fossils, hurting the fan experience in all ways, and stagnating itself into oblivion was not where I wanted to be. I didn't want to hang my content hat there. So I began looking at other options for sim racing content for my section of the channel here for 2023. I told myself, I am not doing IndyCar in 2023. But then, a miracle, perhaps a Christmas miracle. I got a message in my inbox from the modding team over at OSR, Online Sim Racing. They're the group that put together the IndyCar mod I've been using in Automobilista. Apparently, my suggestion to add the aero screen to their IR18 mod had been heard. And here it is. But what's more, the physics have been completely overhauled. This is truly a beautiful mod that must have taken some work to complete. Not only would I feel like a bit of a jerk if I didn't feature this mod that I had begged for, but it's just fantastic work that is a joy to drive. OSR are really knocking it out of the park with this one. And this is still the beta version. I don't know when the official release will happen over to Race Department or wherever. And as this rolled in, I got to thinking about myself and why I love sim racing. It's not about IndyCar as an organization. Every single complaint I listed earlier about IndyCar, I still have. And I'm very concerned for the series' future, for the category's future. But I love this style of racing. The organization itself, But the close racing in IndyCar, the lack of driving aids like some other series, the diversity in the schedule, all that stuff, I love it and I always will. And it speaks to something at the core of me. And I was reminded of that core with this new mod that came into my inbox. So here are my plans for 2023. We're going to have a lot of AI sim racing content for me. It's my brand, I guess, but it's also just a fanatical passion. I'll work long hours making this content because I love it. And we're going to expand. I'm definitely going to attempt a large Formula One season using Assetto Corsa, similar to my IndyCar season this year. I'm also considering branching out into other categories. More on that later once I figure out how to do it. I think I'd be safe to call my American open wheel racing activities IndyCar in 2023. Like, I think I could call it IndyCar, just as long as I don't call it official IndyCar. Given the point of view stipulation of the contract, I think that would be safe. But just to be on the extra safe side, we're going to rebrand the series as Nifty's IndyCar series. Get it? Because it sounds like IndyCar, but then also the thing about being point of view, so it's in the car, but it sounds like IndyCar, but it's in the car. You get it. Okay. As a final note, though, to free up more time for myself, these videos are going to be much, much less edited. My races are usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours long on stream, and I've been editing those down for most of 2022 to fit somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. And that takes a lot of effort on my part. And it's not that the effort's the problem, it's the time. It takes a lot of time to fine-tooth comb these videos and edit the highlights from them. And I'm going to bank on the idea that more content is better than heavily edited content. We'll see. So these videos on YouTube are going to become flag to flag of my own streams. I'll still have the cards up at the end of my videos showing the season point standings and the changes I made to the mods and that stuff, because the community outreach part of it, the idea that people might see my videos and then try to replicate it using my settings, I like that. I like feeling like I'm contributing to the greater community out there, even though only 20 people watch my videos, but hey. So that's going to all stay the same, but they're going to be long videos. You're going to have to sit through a lot to get to that end card, I suppose. But if it helps to maintain the optimism, my last 3 videos of 2022 went with this strategy. They were really not edited. I honestly don't know if I made a single clipped edit within those videos. I know I added, like on the California race, on the Fontana race, I know I added in a little thing in the corner that said when yellow flags were happening, when the green flag would come up, just that you could go skip ahead if you wanted to see the action and skip the caution flag. But for the most part, my last 3 videos were kind of like a test run of what 2023 will look like. And that, by not editing them, that opens up the time to just race more. And by racing more, I get to dump more content onto the channel. So, you know, we're gonna try that for a bit. One last thing, and this is very important. If you're still here, thanks for listening. And if you're watching my racing stuff, thanks so much. This is a passion project, of course. And I think I do it regardless in some form. But when I get comments, I love responding to them. They say that brevity is the soul of wit, so I must be pretty dim-witted because my responses to comments are very long. But that's out of a love and a passion for this stuff. And by commenting along, I'm sharing that love and passion. And that's an amazing thing that you're letting me do. You're letting me share my love and passion for this stuff with you. So thank you so much for that. In conclusion, Happy New Year, Auld Lang Syne, and IndyCar, fix the iRacing deal.